But for me, G2 as well, even though they did end up winning, you know, a lot of the early games looking quite sluggish, having to come back in a lot of the games. And so it has been nice to see here at Worlds so far, even in the few games that we have seen really early on, that each of them have truly embraced their own metas and really started to improve on a lot of those issues from summer.
And that's why someone I think who's really stepped up for T1 is Owner. He has been fantastic in their games, and specifically on things like the Vi. So I was wondering if we would get a Vi ban, but we're not going to see it. Instead, it's going to be the Renata and Kalista and Brom taken away. So immediately, still an Orianna open available for Caps if he wants to go towards that.
Vreau să vedem Orianna Nocturne chat. Orianna Nocturne. Please. Nocturne. Nocturne first pick, by the way. Pentru că e Orianna, se ia Nocturne takeaway. Dar dacă e Nocturne first pick și ia Orianna, poți să te joci Nico Nocturne. So I like it. I like it a lot. Trebuie să ia Orianna ca takeaway.
Even the Twitch, so the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think of Nocturne as only this champion.
Neața mare, salut Darius, salut Eugen, Valentin, Meiță, Lin, Smash, Andrei, Runaway, Nistor, salut, neața boys. Salut domnule Marius. Neața. Ok, deci au luat Ahri. Bine, Ahri nu e neapărat bad, actually bad, bad. Foarte bad. Pentru că și dacă ai dash-ul ăla să scapi, tot îți e ulta de Orianna. Deci combo e mult prea letal. Scarnar. Salut Maris.
And the biggest thing to me is for T1 is almost always Zeus, and I'm very happy that he's on red side. So you're like, oh, okay, you know, they got a Skarner jungle, they're gonna have some tank there, but Zeus having basically guaranteed counter pick possibility for him, I think is huge for T1, since to me Broken Blade has really become such a big force for G2, and his flexibility was one of the biggest tools that they used, you know, the Galio counter pick into the Rumble and whatnot. But in this game, he's probably going to be forced to blind.
I think it's also curious if you end up leaving the counter pick for Carrier, right? Because I think he has been fantastic in that role where he's been able to get that R5 counter pick, bring out some unusual supports like the Nico and that, and then try and terrorize you through that. So maybe that's it, but with the Jax now locked in, potential here to just take that counter pick immediately for Zeus.
Exactly. Now you can counter pick with both roles. Best of both worlds. Let's see what they decide to lock in early here before the second round of protection bans come in.
Jax is something Broken Blade's relatively comfortable on, his fifth most played. Gragas is going to be the lock. This is a long-term known counter pick into the top lane. If the Jax ever tries to jump in, you just body slam him away. You can also out-sustain him in a lot of matchups.
And I have a fun fact, because I was just looking at Zeus stats, and I was scrolling down, and Gragas is one of his top 10 most played, and it is the highest win rate within that top 10 pack at 83.3% win rate, career long for him. Not only is it a very well-known pick into Jax because of the body slam, because you can keep Jax at a distance and deal with the counter-strike, but also it is one of his highest win rate champs.
Yeah, I mean, he's been absolutely exceptional when he gets hands on it. I think when you're looking at a combo that is definitely, hey, we want to jump in on top of you with Nocturne, with Jax, with more than likely another engage support for Mickey, having that disengage off the cast is going to be so important, and you can already see they're banning away a lot of those immediately. One on the rail side, but on the opposite side, a lot of anti-dive for the AD carries. The Xayah gone. I wouldn't be surprised with an Ezreal to be taken off the board here as well.
Kai'Sa removed by T1, so we're not going to see Gumayushi on that end of the bot lane.
Nu-mi place Jax ăsta blind. Renton e în cap, am luat Gragas în el, dar pentru că e OG counter, dar I don't like it that much. Măi, dar nu mai zgâria, măi!
I'm not a fan of this one.
I think Gragas gives you a little bit of damage. You can.
Ce intra Gragas aici? Yeah, e disengage pentru Orianna Nocturne, cred că aia vor să se bată. Nu prea-mi place... Gragas e ok în Jax, dar nu prea-mi place Jax ăsta blind. Știu că e strong pick, dar...
When I've seen BLG basically run this exact same comp against T1, it was that lack of damage because you don't know oftentimes how.
Ce-ar fi putut să ia mai bine ar fi fost Poppy. Putea să ia Poppy pe 3, o flexa pentru Mickey, pentru că e cel mai bun erou al lui, multă de față. Okay, I like this.
Oh, we talked about this so much. We were like, you can't really pick the Kalista early because the Draven might get locked in here. Hans laying down the gauntlet against Gumayushi.
Asta e fix exact genul de pick pe care vrei să-l vezi de la Hans, pentru că e cel mai bun pick al lui și e foarte dominant. That's a video. Predict, bro, am zis de ieri că o să fie 2-1. Ori 2-1 pentru G2, ori 2-1 pentru T1.
And I love going for this when you have the first pick Nocturne guaranteed already. You're talking about hiding, and Nocturne will just turn off the lights, and you get to go so aggressive with your positioning on top of that. So lots of.
Ia, o să fie 3 meciuri să lăsăm. Mickey pe Nautilus. I like it. Cred că după Poppy și Rakan, Nautilus e al treilea cel mai bun pick al lui. Cred că îl joacă destul de ok. Cert e că nu vreau să-l văd pe Mickey jucând real. Nu știu ce au banat ăștia real. Cred că dacă stați să vă gândiți, s-au jucat real în fiecare meci până acum, poate pentru a-i face pe adversar să creadă că ei vor să joace real, când de fapt ei nu vor să joace real.
Jin can start to rain hell. Ari's dashing around the fight. You have the Gragas ultimate as well to split it up. It feels like T1 in multiple small skirmishes might be able to win as opposed to a full-on 5v5.
Yeah, I think it is still a little tough because I think G2 did a good job of getting rid of a lot of
these. Ce de Heria a plecat de des? Pentru că probabil e hype pick-ul lui. Îi place să-l joace, doar că e foarte situațional. Din e carry pick. Carry.
G2 definitely on paper have a good start. It's just about can they have a good early game to facilitate that.
And I will say, T1, they have had some good early games, and they have a lot of pick potential on their side as well. If you're looking at things that will make it difficult for Hans to play, Leona ultimates, Zay's very, very good Gragas, and Skarner, it's not the same as a Nocturne, but you can go through walls. And something interesting about Skarner in lane swaps, it gives you a lot more options than junglers usually have. Usually junglers kind of go to sleep in lane swaps and just go for jungle camps, but Skarner does have a lot more angles to surprise people from, so very interested to see the setup here.
For the third time this year, we see T1 and G2 go on to the Rift in a series. In Chengdu, it all came out.
PSG pe Papa Europa? Nu, bro, G2 e 2-1 față. Poate să piardă meciul ăsta și să meargă la un bracket, dar hai să sperăm că se califică în play-off și bate pe T1. Ok, schimbăm și ana imediat. Ce vrea să facă Nocturne în meciul ăsta? Nocturne vrea cel mai probabil să-și facă patting în Draven Nautilus. Are două opțiuni, ori începe pe Blue și face clear normal full clear în bot, ori începe pe Raptor și se întoarce cu clear-ul după crabul de pe top. Se întoarce cu clear-ul în bot, să poată să aibă un timer de gank. Toate că, în opinia mea, să faci patting de crab în topside e destul de bad aici, pentru că vrei să joci full bot, vrei să-i permiți Blue Draven să pușeze ca un animal. Deci, Blue Start e singura opțiune viabilă. Invade-ul ăsta ar fi... No, Mickey s-a început, nu, așa deja, Mickey. No, Mickey deja de la level 1, Mickey, n-ai milă, Mickey. N-ai milă, Mickey, deloc de noi, n-ai milă deloc.
The slight read on this, they thought that there was going to be a delayed invade. That's why Broken Blade actually hovered over by Raptor camp, but then they felt like it had been too long and T1 wasn't still going to go for it, but T1, they just upset them with the timing.
It was actually something that happened in game 1 of the first best of 5 at MSI. Faker got caught out moving around towards that Razor Beaks to get the ward in that he so often does. Here, G2 read T1, but T1 read G2 reading T1. And they just out-mind game them here. Mickey will get back to the lane, didn't burn either of his summoners. But that first blood going over to Gumayushi is so impactful for the lane if he can go back and spend that money.
Yeah, even the fact that you just get push allows you so easily to do that. Now that you have that advantage as well, with Hans Sama being late to the lane, so you get to reset, set things up a little earlier. And as I was talking about, the fact that you have the Leona here actually makes this the more aggressive.
Scar nu-și face pat în topside pentru că, în teorie, 3v3 a trebuit să piardă în Draven destul de tare pentru că Draven e foarte strong și nu vrea să forțeze un skirmish în bot. Gragas face heavy trading slash poke cu Jax, deci pentru ca Jax să ia push, trebuie să facă trades cu Gragas, Gragas are mai mult sustain și practic, ok, nevermind, în ce are double push și mid și bot, poate să caute invade sau mid level 3. Ok, mid level 3. Bro, Caps in his zone. Bro, azi e ziua lui Caps, dacă a început și dacă... Caps normal, dacă era meci de leg, murea de 3 ori în gank-ul ăsta. Murea de 3 ori în gank-ul ăsta. A eschivat și EU de Skarner și charmul de Ahris. So, e în capul lor, e în capul lor Caps shot. În capul lor. În fine, ziceam, Skarner trebuie să facă clear înspre top, pentru că practic Jax poate să fie expus și vrea să ia și crab, adică nu vrea să îi dea double saddle crab în Nocturne. Văzând chestia asta, Yike a identificat faptul că la început la blue, din moment ce a făcut level 3 gank pe mid, și nu vrea să scape nepedepsit Skarner, lăsându-l să ia crab, right? Știe că e mult mai puternic și are push și pe top. G2 are push în 3 linii în momentul de față. Deci preferă să ia crabul de pe top și apoi ia și crabul de pe bot. Eventual poate să facă cross prin mid sau să caute gank. Ok, wave pushează spre ei, deci n-are cum. Nu l-au văzut pentru că a murit minionul. Deci practic Honor o să meargă să verifice crabul și să vadă că e luat deja. Și are o singură opțiune, ori își dă recall, ori încearcă să gancheze top din spate. Sau mai încearcă o rundă pe mid, dar nu cred că runda asta pe mid o să scoate ceva în care flash. Probabil vrea să ia flash, actually. Maybe it's not bad. Ok, și-a dat dublu foul, this is bad. I mean, cred că câștigă, by the way. Câștigă. N-au și un mega strong level. Are level. E bine că nu și-a pierdut flash-ul. Dacă își pierde flash-ul, e super bad pentru Oriana în Ahri. Ok, e mort. Let's go, chat, let's go. Asta e fix și are nevoie G2, by the way. Gen, fix și are nevoie G2. Și cu siguranță îmi plac picurile de genul pentru Yak, pentru că a arătat confident pe Nocturne. Nu vreau să-l văd pe Vi sau pe alte chestii, just giving Nocturne. Ok, ăsta ar trebui să fie base timer pentru Caps.
He's 50 gold ahead right now, but you have to remember Gumayushi had first blood, so technically he should be ahead if the CS is even.
Yeah, and I think it's just a really nice job here from the G2 bot lane to be able to turn it down. You get the route on towards carry, you didn't have the aftershock in the engage, so Hansam is just able to follow up and get that damage down. And when you think back to when G2 were considered the strongest early game team in the LEC back last year, it was this Draven that so often they would play around and get these big leads and
să vedem să că Caps are încă flash-ul după 2 gankuri. Sunt de acord cu tine. Faptul că n-a pierdut flash-ul 2 gankuri în 4 minute e senzațional. Ideea e că o să devine din ce în ce mai greu odată ce face Ahri 6, pentru că o să dea charm în... Nu moare care flash. Zeus? Ok, a trollat Zeus. No, e mort Hansama. No, e prea bun. E prea bun Zeus. E prea bun Zeus, man, e prea bun Zeus. Ok, a ratat. E mort ăsta. Sau îi pleacă flash-ul? I mean, nu pierde nimic, că n-avea stack-uri, so e whatever. E whatever. Mamă, cât urăsc gen stats-urile astea. Ăsta are 20 de meciuri câștigate și 2 pierdute pe erou ăsta. El fantastic, joacă la o echipă care câștigă mereu. Sau, de cele mai multe ori.
He's expended his resources with nothing happening to his enemy AD carry.
I think the play on towards the top side though really helped out G2 obviously because they do force T1 away, which then gives them.
E ca și cum lauzi în fotbal când dă cineva foarte multe goluri în fiecare meci. Haaland dă 5 goluri pe meci. El joacă la City și are cel mai bun roster, cel mai bun coechipier, logic că dă goluri. Întotdeauna e aceeași chestie. Și-a bătut butoiul de el? Puțin, sincer. Ei, nu e rău pentru ei. Chiar nu contează de tot ăsta pe Gragas. Dar dive-ul ăsta e teribil. Nu poți dai dive-ul Gragas, man. Gragas e literal... Gragas este făcut, produs în fabrică, anti-tank. Gen anti-tank, anti-dive. Gragas este anti-dive, nu ai cum să dai dive. La fel ca și Casante, numai că Casante Gragas 2.0. Mickey doar nu da hook, bro. Just hide in fog. Play fog, man. Nu trebuie să te arăți în linia asta. Sper să nu și asta cask în turnier. Că rămâne gură cask. A dat și la națională seară, dublă. Unde n-are cel mai bun. Ok. S-a jucat versus Slovenia, bro. Mă uit în echipa Sloveniei, nu cunosc pe nimeni. Cam greu să nu dai.
I think as well the fact that Zayas has his TP available is kind of why we're seeing G2 opt into these transferred lanes, because you don't want to have a moment where owner could potentially play up, have a gank on towards Broken Blade, you then have Zayas TP.
Ok, Nocturne level 6, Nocturne e online. Nu-mi plac swap-urile astea făcute de T1 și am impresia că suntem mereu on the back foot, adică suntem mereu prinși invers și suntem forțați să jucăm cu Draven în linia lor, care vrea să fie weak side și nu pățește nimic. N-ai cum să dai dive. O să avem următorul fight la Grabis, chat. Grabis 2 minute. Grabis în 2 minute, chat. Ai venit că sunt nimeni, bro, am zis că pur și simplu echipa în întregime nu este wow. Era doar un exemplu. Bă, deci vă place, bă, e o boală românească, bro, să faci nitpicking, gen, trebuie să faci nitpicking, să demonstrezi tu contrariu, neapărat, gen. Trebuie, nu, obține. Ok, boys, are Olivia un call la muncă, deci o să fiu pe 2 minute cât vorbești cu el.
We may get to see our first, attempted execution of a Nocturne Orianna combo. That is going to be, one of the opportunities here if you're able to draw them over first. As you can see, they're all very early trying to get some extra vision. Mid-prowl turns into vision towards that setup, and owner already into the river.
They are sending Faker bot lane. He doesn't have the teleport, so T1 I think need to make some sort of play beforehand to deny the 4v5, and that Broken Blade could potentially TP into, so they're a little bit late on the resets here for T1.
You can always go with the strat of saying, hey, maybe we won't deny you the 4-grub buff, but we'll at least steal away one with a smite for owner, especially with Skarner, a champion that can go through the walls and get out pretty easily, because Yike's not going to be able to smite all 3 of them, so if you kind of put some pressure there, but now we have the reset, so Faker already back to base, Lucidity, boots, and heading out for it.
But they are late. I mean, 5 seconds now in the Voidgrubs, and you've got push in top, you're pushing bot, so Broken Blade gets the plates, and you're in position as G2 first. I think T1 have fumbled this a little bit.
G2 will start up the grubs. T1 are looking for a Barney. They're looking for a fight here. Mickey looking for that hook. Owner stepping forward, eats an axe. Caps and Mickey standing around the side. Caps low mana. They go into Carrier. Paranoia. There's the shockwave as well. Meanwhile, in the bottom, Broken Blade's going to look to try and keep Zayas around. One already over as Yike kills off Carrier. Owner's killed Caps though. And now Yike has to run from Faker and Gumayushi. Owner's so low in the pit. He gets 2. Unsummer will answer with 1. Cleanses away, but he's not going to be able to get too much more here. He can get a second. Gumayushi able to win out the fight in the end. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, much ado about nothing.
Oh man, it seems like Carrier is getting blown up so far. The initiation onto him gets him so low that then Yike is able to ult into the backline, take out him, and they did get one of the grubs, so our kind of like first objective for G2 was at least get 1 Void Might spawn, and they did at least acquire that.
But great play from Zayas, right? Because, actually I was about to praise him, but here comes the TP to counter.
Broken Blade has to flash early, needs to keep himself away from Zayas. That flash body slam combination. Faker has no spirit rush, does have the flash, but Broken Blade will just back all the way under the safety of his tower.
Yeah, so Zayas going all in on the bot side to prevent the TP from Broken Blade coming in, and this is where, as you said, Carrier gets completely blown up, but Gumayushi staying well out of harm's way, and then even the shockwave not doing a huge amount of damage, but look at the suppression coming through from the Skarner, locking up 2 members of G2, making sure that Caps couldn't have any real follow-up damage. Yike ends up going so far to finish off the initial kill onto Carrier, then he can be focused down by Faker and Gumayushi, and Mickey is just trying his damnedest to help out Hans to a little bit, but it's still Gumayushi who's able to clean up at the back end.
The important thing for Hans on that Draven is he did get a kill before he died, so he gets those adoration stacks again, but you can see it's only a 400 gold lead for him. Now has the Bloodthirster complete as G2 have set up towards the top side, TPing away from bot as well. Broken Blade giving up the Ghost on that tower. Zeus going to get hooked in here. Still has the explosive cask and the flash. It's more Mickey acting as a distraction as G2 try and rattle their way through this tower. They'll take the second turret of the game, and they continue to push forward here. Voidgrubs helping them out quite a lot in taking these towers quickly.
Yeah, and the price, of course, that they are going to pay is not only the push on the opposite side, but the Dragon number 2 here for T1, which Owner is able to clean up. Faker does not have teleport.
Already used. Zeus caught out with a counter-strike, though, and Zeus is met with the whirling death. The curtains open, and Summer's so low, but Broken Blade can tank that up well enough as G2 managed to escape with a kill. Caps is looking for a little bit more, though. Gumayushi has the flash, has the barrier, and I think G2 realized they can't really dive this.
Yeah, but look at the bot side. Faker's completely pushing in. Gumayushi's still looking for more. Broken Blade gonna have to place a ward so we can hop on out of there. There it is, but as they went for that engage, Mickey hooked on towards Zeus right as the cast came through, so I think it ended up a little bit more wonky than expected, but T1 are picking up so much on the map.
Yeah, I think the calls from T1 in response to that commitment from G2 were very, very good. T1 did not panic at all. They also did not over-allocate resources. They only had 3 people to defend under the dive, and they're like, it's fine if you kill someone, we're gonna get a return kill and stop your 5-person push, and they just had Owner, instead of coming to try and trap, he just pushed mid lane as well, so...
Not really, bro, pentru că Draven are unele linii pe care nu vrea să le joace, tip Ashe. Cred că mai degrabă nu o să mai vedem Jhin la Blind Pick, pentru că odată ce au văzut Jhin, atunci...
a lot of the top side objectives going to G2, Dragons for T1. Rift Herald started by T1 here, though, means that they should be able to get that advantage when it comes towards the objectives. And already, with the pressure that you can have with Faker on these side lanes, I think that's where you can transition Faker from side into mid to crack open this mid lane structure.
I think this is what we were all hoping to see as well, though. Like 14.5 minutes in, the gold within 100. The difference between the lanes is, well, top side is winning for T1 and bot side is winning for G2. T1 do have those 2 Drakes in their pocket. Zona secures the Rift Herald as well. There's a possibility.
Nu știu exact cum dăm Heraldul ăsta și nu facem dive bot. Nu știu exact cum turnul ăsta nu e picat. Sau Gragas daiva Dragas. Bro, Gragas joacă full AP, by the way, are Cosmic. Ceea ce e super nice pentru noi. Ok, 5v5. 5v5? Minutul 15? I mean, ăsta să pice, au 6 grabis, bro, poate... Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Luați turnul, luați focus de tower, focus de tower, focus de tower, asta e teribil. Ok, turnul, mamă, în capsul nostru. Changer a ieșit mult mai bine decât mă așteptam să iasă. A ieșit mult mai bine decât mă așteptam să iasă. Bro, joacă atât de bine cu tempo, bro. Își dă TP pe top, dă crash la top wave. Nu o să ia turnul neapărat, dar îi face pe aia să mai pierdă încă 2 wave, jumătate, 3. Gen min-maxing la T1 e prea bun, bro. Și tier 2. I don't know, nu-mi place Jax, nu mai luați Jax, please nu mai luați Jax. Oh no, oh no, Caps? Caps? Bro, asta... A dat Q de Leona în ward. Nu o să dăm TP pe top ca să facem defend. Man, ce greșeli. Ce nerful către gen să ai Dragon să scade damage-ul legii. I mean, așa la nerful. Recent. În ulta de Oriana nu prea da damage, pentru că a fost presat pe cei 3 tanci. Și Caps a murit din aer. Vedem, l-a bătut cu aer. Am o să-mi iau un garbi, cred că.
And that's where every single fight we've watched, it's been very difficult for G2 to operate with this Oriana Nocturne combo on towards the back line. There you've got a Terror in the way, they don't want to dive too far and completely be separated by the structure. And in the initial team fight over at the second Voidgrubs, everyone was clumped up, so they invite all that to be burst on towards the tanks. So T1 are just kind of setting up for these team fights incredibly well and being able to play through, as you say, the damage dealers constantly being safe and a massive threat in these fights.
I think what G2 really need to leverage right now is this Nocturne's ability to pressure the side lanes, because at least the tower did go down in the end, even though it has been a little bit rough in the last sequence of plays for G2.
Ați văzut că și G2 acest versus 100%. Piața de fasting nu mai fac fasting în
They still do have a lot of territory to work with now, and if Yike can get one more level, you actually get a nice range boost on your ultimate, but...
Yike puts up the shroud. In goes the statement down onto the backline goes Yike looking for that paranoia. Mickey knocked in as well. Gumayushi has
Ok, no flash, e mort Leona. Se face chase la Leona, bro, ne moare Draven-ul. Încă unul. Bro, facem chase la Leona cu Jackson, nu o să jucăm fight-ul.
The charm goes wide. Yike and Caps alongside Broken Blade able to keep on to their lives right now. Zeus though can look for more. Broken Blade stepping forward into the darkness. Rift Tower pushed in the mid lane. That's going to take the tower.
N-ai cum să câștigi fight-ul ăsta, nici cu ăștia lui HP, n-ai cum. Plus că seara se regenerează din red.
The cask again from Zeus, splitting up that fight perfectly in favor of T1. It looked a little dicey for Gumayushi as they had to flash over the wall, but T1, these team fights consistently going their way.
Randuim pe Gragas sau Frozen Heart mai probabil, pentru că vrea ce direct, nu vrea Randuim. Nu e tank pur.
Broken Blade ends up having to flash to finish him off. But here's a look at that initiation you're talking about.
Yeah, you get the grab on towards Caps again, who just gets caught out. But this looks a little dicey as Gumayushi has to flash away. But it means that
cred că Caps a turat tot fight-ul, by the way, pentru că n-a apăsat R pe Nocturne. Dacă Nocturne dă R pe Jhin, îl omoară pe Jhin și apoi câștigă fight-ul. Al doilea fight în care Caps apasă R pe cei 3 tanci.
Yeah, we talked a lot about backline threat on Hansama. What T1 are doing so well is having multiple avenues of approach. You can see Faker coming around the back there. You see the initial engage going out from Keria, from Ono, and then they really pincer in on this movement. T1 team fighting absolutely superbly right now.
Yeah, pulled apart and pushed apart with the Gragas ultimate. Actually beautiful stuff there. And again, that did result in multiple objectives because of the Rift Trail that we talked about, you know, getting popped from them as well. So now T1 are
big problem by the way, chat.
They are going to have a lot of
au Frozen Heart pe Gragas, plus Randuin pe Skarner. Ceea ce înseamnă că Draven nu o să dea damage până nu își termine LDR sau Mortar Reminder și nu o să-și termine înainte de gen 3 minute nu strânge gol. Și nu poate să bată acum. Are nevoie măcar de last whisper-ul micuț înainte de Dragon.
Where he's looking at the Lich Bane to say, hey, I can start to take structures very well. I can have a ton of threat on side lanes. And it's basically leveraging the fact that Orianna sucks in the side lane. She does not want to be there. She's incredibly vulnerable. And Faker just saying, cool, well, I'm going to push out everything on the map, making it impossible for G2 to try and play through Orianna Nocturne and just draw again G2 further around so T1 can continue to put the pressure on.
And I don't want to like inject false hopium into you guys, but
please do.
You might need some right now. In situations like this are when I've actually seen G2 shine a lot, you know, when they are forced to come back in situations. They'll say, fine, T1 are going to be efficient and they're going to play all 3 lanes and close in on us, and G2 like overload one side with the Orion and the Nocturne, and the Draven ult comes through, and they just, you know, commit to picking off one of the points for T1, and then they kind of surprise you with being somewhere that's not completely optimal, but then they're able to snowball objectives afterwards and try and fight their way back into the game.
Urăsc picul ăsta de Jax cu atâta pasiune, n-aveți idee cât de useless cred că e picul ăsta de Jax așa luat la mișto în blind pick. Îți trimiteți băieții un Gragas și nu mai miști.
Because they've been behind a lot of the time.
I've seen, yeah, especially in summer.
Yeah. I mean, they did really well versus Fnatic. Yeah. You know? I think T1 may be a different beast, Kobe. I'm just going to put that one out there.
You take the nameplates off and then you replace them with whatever suits your current state.
Imagine you could do that. Instead of having the actual opponents, you just replace it with like humanoid. Or make it a bit easier for G2. They have had Fnatic's number this year, but T1 have had theirs. 2 series, 2 wins to the LCK number 4 seed, and currently they are looking to make it 1-0 in this third.
Especially because, you know, Dagda is mentioning Faker's build, and Faker's build not only is it very burst heavy, but it's also very far ahead.
What?
Never mind.
Another flash. Huge. Dacă moare unul, îl împare unul. Dar nu moare. Cred că sare cast. Nice, Mickey.
Still cleanses just in case. T1 lose 1, it's only Guma down, Mickey answered in response.
Oh, Kobe, I was meant to say you're a genius. They get the overload on mid, but T1, they respond so well. It ends up being a 1-for-1. Still, Gumayushi off the map. Might set up more.
Faker has flash. You won't want to burn it, obviously. Broken Blade can just jump across to this wall, trying to dodge away from the Charm here. Faker with a Foxfire. Charm goes wide. Broken Blade won't be having him any more of that action. Pops the Scryers. G2 trying to set up on this top side now. You can see Zeus pushing out bot, but he's got teleport to join a fight that might erupt.
Yeah, G2 actually drew it up pretty cleanly there. They dropped the top wave, the Faker wave, where Ari was pushing, and they just force on mid, but a little bit too close to the tower with the follow-up, and end up not being able to snowball it as
Care ce l-am mers azi? PSG cu BLG.
Around the Baron. Really what you're looking at is a soul very early on in this game in only 30 seconds. And so it becomes very difficult to both keep vision of the Baron, because you know T1 will also rush down that and be happy to give you one dragon, but also keep sight of the soul. So here we go. Now is the real test for G2.
And I think at least the cheat sheet for them in this test is the fact that Hans Sama...
Bro, Draven și-a turnat la Whisper-ul. Îmi plăi minte, what? Și-a luat cash-out pe genul ăla. Ok, putem să câștigăm, bine bro. Nu, Caps, please, no. Bravo, Mickey. Foarte bine, Mickey. Balansat, bro, balansat. Balansat. Nu ce Noriana, balance, îmi place. Ori are TP. Winnable. Cei doi sunt favoriți aici, băi, în fight-ul ăsta. Nu știu ce începe și alta unul.
G2 with no ultimates. Broken Blade dashing in here, jumping across that wall. Owner, they're trying to smite the Drake. Would be soul for them. Counter strike from Broken Blade. Here comes Zeus. Flash, Zenith Blade. They look for the engagement.
Huge on Sama.
Caps is down to half HP. Broken Blade jumps across the pit, and now Mickey's here to bolster the defenses. Faker.
Dar e atât de useless, man, Jack. Speak-ul ăsta e atât de useless.
Begin to back away from the fight, realize they don't really want
Dacă mare ea e că e Baron, by the way.
slowed up though, a hook goes down only onto Owner. Caps knocked back. Zeus finds him, and now Yike's running for the hills, locked up with a captive audience. Yike down two. It's a Baron on the
Like, come on, joacă-te Poppy, joacă-te Ornn, joacă-te ceva useful. Te joci Jack să-ți iei burta de Gragas, te uiți la ei. Intri în fight, dai 300 de damage și apoi ești useless.
Yes, has the ultimate available, but it's 5 members of T1 and Faker is fishing for the charm.
Hans has the whirling
Zero side pressure, 0 tot. Măcar dacă își făcea cleaver și dădea arm pentru Draven și Nocturne. În full armor stacking, în loc de Thunder Red Sky.
Pretty sharpish that he can't go for it. Still charmed up. Spear rush forward by Faker. There's the curtain calls as well, and his curtains for Mickey. Carrier takes him.
Na, stai unul să
T1 take the Baron. They are in firm control of the game as Hans Summers overstepped 2. Hans Summers down 2. T1 6k ahead. A soul, a Baron, and maybe more of his Broken Blade's charmed. And T1 continue to collapse. The jump away from Broken Blade will keep them safe for a moment, but T1 are knocking on the door.
Bro, G2 are broken combo Nocturne Oriana. Dar nu contează. Gragas e mutant, literalmente, Gragas e mutant.
God of the cakes in this game. Really impressive. Game number 1 here so far for T1, and after the Baron push, already taking mid inhibitor, they have so much money to spend. You have to think it's going to be a quick reset for them and right back out to pushing.
They have so much money and so much time. Still 2 minutes left on that Red Bull Baron power play. They've already got 3.5k off it. Mickey contributing to the Nautilus Death Thund. Misses the hook as Carrier goes wide with the Zenith Blade 2. Mickey has to flash away.
Închideți geamul, chat, închideți ferestrele, închideți tot ce e de închis.
G2 now starting to push out. T1 did stick around a little bit long, so maybe G2, if Faker separated, feel they have a chance to go in, but I think it's still incredibly difficult because honestly, that's only a flank angle for Faker.
Very small window there to engage. They did have a little bit of vision. A TP coming in. Zeus will be the one on the front line. Faker will be the one on the back, but Zeus immediately locked up. You can see how much damage he can tank. Faker going in with the charm, it goes wide. Zeus almost falls to the whirling death and he still has the locket. Faker dodges away from the hook. Zeus going
cât de serios posibil, chat. Vă promit că dacă Jax-ul ăsta avea cleaver, Gragas murea de 3 ori acolo. Dacă Jax-ul ăsta avea cleaver în loc de useless Thunder Sky, îi scădea 30% din armură. lui Gragas. Bro, e atât de unfair pe moment, gen, atât de unfair. Gen, 100% era meciul lui Jude. În ideea că nu că au jucat mai bine, în ideea că era câștigabil.
The Nexus towers fall and T1 will go one game away from Paris and quarterfinals. Mickey gets a kill.
Un kill pentru Mickey așa de motivație.
The mental game. It's the mental game.
Holy moly. The god of cracking a code one on your screen. That was absolutely insane from Zeus, and G2 looks stunned.
Like, what's the point of picking Jax cu Nocturne? Adică, ok, înțeleg dacă ai Skarner junglă, Sejuani junglă, Maokai junglă, ceva jungler de ăsta mega useless care nu face altceva decât să dea CC. Atunci e Jax ca să dai damage, dar tu n-ai frontline. Ai Nocturne în junglă. E probabil cel mai bun blind pe care poate să le ia. Din momentul ăla Nocturne, first pick, i-au răspuns Oriana, pardon, i-au răspuns Skarner, Ahri și apoi i-au luat Oriana și trebuia să ia top. Și cel mai bun top blind în momentul de față e Jax, presupun. Sau Renekton, sau Gnar. Cât de bun era Gnar meciul ăsta? Probabil de un miliard de, catralion de miliarde de ori mai bun decât Jax pick. Pentru că avea actual real pressure. Aia probabil n-ar fi luat Gragas, ar fi luat altceva, evident. Dar te joci, ce poate să, care e cel mai rău lucru pe care poate să-l ia adversarii când tu iei Gnar blind, care e by the way cel mai blinded pick în tot turneul, Gnar. Poate să ia Jace, dar nu joacă nimeni Jace momentan. Poate să ia Yasuo, dar nu joacă decât G2 Yasuo top până acum. Actually, T1 ar putea să ia. Dar mă îndoiesc că vrei să iei Yasuo top cu Skarner Ahri. Pare vomitabil compul. Și apoi mai e Camille, care e probabil cel mai indicat pick. Camille e bună în Gnar și în general în range champs, dar cum te joci Camille când ăștia au Oriana, Nocturne și Nocturne poate să-i facă hover lui Gnar mereu pe side. Da, ei n-ai rămas acolo. Eu spre asta că n-am văzut-o, joacă, bro. Băi, Renekton sau Gnar putea să ia în loc de Jax. Și ar fi avut mult mai mult pressure. Plus că pe Rene poți să buildezi cleaver în Serac. Ești pur și simplu enabler slash support pentru Gragas. Ăsta pentru Gragas, pentru Draven. Dar acum a fost Jax-ul ăsta a fost support pentru Gragas, nu pentru Draven. Am impresia sau a fost foarte rapid meciul ăsta? Cât a fost? 20 minute? Salut, Zero. Nu știu exact ce sale. Pe meciul ăsta joacă Zeus, Rumble top, bagă Broken Blade în Guardian simți să spele meciul trecut. Ideea e că T1 nu o să dea blind pe Rumble cât timp e Galio open, pentru că probabil au văzut deja răspunsul și nu pot fi surprins de răspunsul lor. Plus că T1, dacă nu mă înșel, Nu au jucat T1, nu au jucat Rumble până acum, dacă nu mă înșel. Let me check. T1 au jucat așa, au jucat Jax, Rumble, Gnar, Gragas. Un meci de Rumble și l-au jucat în... let me check. L-au jucat versus Spain Gaming. Versus brazilieni s-au jucat Rumble. Și atunci aveau Ione și aveau nevoie de AP top, de aia s-au jucat Rumble. Nu o să vedem Rumble top din partea lui Seushat. Nu în blank cel puțin, nu în G2. Joci competitiv? Da. Salutare, domnul peșterilor. Ce vrea să însemne asta, domnule Storan? Care că se echipele ca să ajungă în finală, părerea ta? Am depinde de cum se pliază bracketul, bro. Dar best team sunt HOD și GG. Marx și v-ați făcut Marx, băieți? Și-a făcut Marx. Tot și-a făcut Marx. Nu l-a contat. In the end, it didn't matter. Păi și de ce mă cataloghează faptul că am barbă cu oamenii peșterilor? Par așa nespălat? Nu cred că par chiar așa nespălat și neîngrijit.
The Gragas pick that really glued everything together, not to mention that it was executed flawlessly.
Yeah, I think the big thing with this composition, again, when I'm looking at the difference between T1 shakiness leading up to here to now, is pulling out this composition, knowing exactly how you want to play it, making tweaks like adding the Gragas in. Zeus had a phenomenal game. The Lichbane Ahri from Faker really trying to spread the map and responding super well with this high execution composition to what G2 wanted to do with the Nocturne Orianna combo was really great to see from T1.
And it's really a testament to T1's preparation that they were ready for this combo because everyone has been talking about how good Nocturne Orianna is once the Auroras and the Yones have been away.
Jax pick-ul ăla, frate, adică Orianna nu și Broken, dar nu putem să cărăm chiar atât. Nu putem să cărăm abominația asta din greu.
Jin, a champion that I otherwise really hate, seem much better and also helps bring
up some
maybe won't otherwise have. Faker didn't go grass. He brought out Lichbane as you mentioned.
E probabil să fi luat bani în chat fără să facă nimic, pentru că asta e situația. Zero șanse.
Really good. I think me and Dracos are mad about the Jin looking good a little bit, you know. We've been some Jin haters over here.
Jackie Love versus T1 made one piece of Jin propaganda that people are holding on a little bit too hard. And it just really hasn't, other than that, hasn't been good, but today it's been different.
I mean, Guma watched it, it was against him, and he said, I can do better. Don't you worry. And he did, but it wasn't just the picks, we have to say that. I mean, the idea of kind of tempo, decision making, coming into the fights when they had to, asset execution, Dracos, there is a lot to wax lyrically for T1.
Yeah, and every second counts, and thanks to the reliable Cisco network, Faker was able to get there in the nick of time in this replay. And as we take a look, the thing I want to highlight on your mini-map initially right off the bat, Faker not anywhere near, but keep in mind he does have the TP, and we have a perfect TP flank ward here. Already a recipe for disaster, you've seen this so many times. So Arthur, if we can roll the clip, if we can take a look at how this starts, it's actually not too bad for G2. Hansama gets clipped, but he doesn't get stunned. Mickey re-engaging here isn't bad. A front-to-back team fight when Hansama is strong is good. You pause, you can see the initial impact of the Nocturnal is good. They're getting Orianna disrupting on the front. You're making sure that Jin can't participate on the fight. But the beautiful thing here is that T1 aren't entirely reliant on Jin for damage output, so it's not going to hurt too bad. Faker, you can see at the bottom of your screen, is already on that flank. And the moment that breaks this, if we take a look at the center of your screen here, is this Gragas ultimate on clear screen. If we can pause it one more time just to highlight what happens, we now have a perfect division on two sides, but Guma is safe and Faker is on the flank. And all of these people for G2, you go, oh, it's 3 people, it's going to be great. Ori has no ult. Nocturne has no ult. None of those people matter. The one person that matters is all here, all on his lonesome on the side.
Fight-ul ăsta l-a trollat atât de tare, bro. Fight-ul ăsta a fost atât de bad, adică bine și Hansama, sincer, a trollat magnific de tare, pentru că în loc să kiteze spre zid, să poată să dea flash peste perte, să repoziționeze echipa lui, el mergea în jos și s-a izolat între 4 și apoi a mers spre echipa lui, după ce a pierdut tot așa pe unul. Actually, Hansama cred că a trabat mai mult decât echipa lui la faza asta. El vrea să-l lovească pe Gragas.
I think we're seeing this pick a lot more.
Creating space mentioned for Hansama. It's really one of those, oh, you probably wonder how I ended up in this position. And T1 says, no, we knew you were going to end up in this position. And I think, Emily, something you were also mentioning a lot is that because T1 sees how the game is going to play out, G2 had to use their Nocturnal defensively a lot. And that puts T1 in a great position.
Ok, papa, 2-0, nu vă faceți, terminăm imediat, e ok. Glumesc, hai glumesc. Ok, au luat iar Bloom. Doar repetați draftul și nu mai luați Jax. Literalmente, aceleași banuri, același tot. Nu mai luați Jax. Please. Vezi ce Jinx scoate Hans? Nu o să vezi Jinx în turnul ăsta, bro. Slabe șanse.
The coordination from T1 is, again, not something that they were as strong at in the lead up here. So to see this now from then could be a harbinger of doom for other teams.
Acum am văzut cum i-a sărit în cap pe Discord că nu sunt cum ăla. Acum am văzut.
This is the thing that I think is genius is because obviously
asta citește din pașaport sau ce? Părea pașaport așa, ok. Părea mai micuț.
But usually whoever goes first is favored, and the really big difference again is that Gragas ult because you can reset a fight. So T1 get in, they get their cooldowns off first, G2 then go, all right guys, it's our turn.
Dacă era coachul la G2 se uita în pașaport, l-a ajutat pe cap să facă check-in-ul. Glumesc, chat, glumesc, e 2-1, v-am zis că minimul match câștigă G2, minimul match, ăsta e match. Apoi să ducă pe rețea și să pierdă de
I don't know, some hope.
Can you give us all a rallying cry, actually?
I'm trying to give him some hope, you know, please. I've got a very large stock of hopium. I would say you don't want it to be a best of one
joacă pe Reckless pentru că sunt aici ca să câștige, bro.
That's a good place to
start. If ajunge side-ul, da.
We'll just increase it to a best of 5.
And it's a 2-2 after this, right? So G2 aren't eliminated. That's where my hopium's coming from. I'm kind of in this series, I just want to see good League of Legends mentality. And next series, you know, when we match up against FlyQuest.
Keep your camera on Zeus then. You know, just go to the pro view of Zeus because he truly was magnificent in game number 1. You know, it got to start off all flashy with killing Hansama, who the Draven had just cashed in, just bought, was like filled with you know, courage and kind of played him a little bit there by the tower. But then also the team play that came in. Zeus was just such a big part of it here in each and every team fight.
And I think T1's team fighting has been absolutely exceptional. Worlds, you think back to their game against BLG where they win that 4 versus 5 at Baron. Now they're completely separating out fights to butcher G2 where they stand. And G2, they are opting back in towards the blue side, sticking to the same band. So I'm curious if we get a very similar, hey, we're just going to run it back and try and be better coordinated on some of these dives.
I would say number one adjustment, because they're still, you know, banning the Kalista and Renata. But yeah, they add the Skarner here. I think a bigger thing was blind picking their Jax. Like versus T1, this team is so good at counter picking because both Keria and Zeus really benefit from it. And so you don't really want to blind pick any of your early matchups and just kind of go the normal route, which is you just go jungle and then I guess
același draft. I like. Gen nu cred că draftul a fost problema. Vai acum. Au banat scanner, au adaptat draftul și au banat scanner. Nocturne e bun în Vi. So I don't mind the adaptation. Cred că adaptarea e actually bună. Dacă ești ok jucându-te Draven, de ce trebuie să banezi Kalista și Renata? Probabil pentru că e bună Renata în Nocturne Oriana. Că gen Nocturne apasă R, Renata apasă R peste target. Și nu pasă pe el.
We'll see if that's enough of an adjustment.
It does open up the
rumble. Persoană pe aici. Merci.
In the top lane, went all the way through picks and bans in game 1. Jax as well. It's more of a skill matchup.
Că asculta și-au Lagnar.
Take it over as the game goes on.
Dabs in better coach. Mă bucur. Mă bucur nespus că nu s-a mai luat Jax-ul ăla useless.
I think maybe the adjustment is that Rumble does sometimes struggle against Nocturne because your ultimate, you can't get full value. You know, sometimes it's really hard to see the perfect placement. So maybe that's what he was thinking, not wanting to play team fights and having to work around that. Whereas Jax is definitely a bit easier, but
adică nu cred. Măi, și... Pisoiu, vină coace. Vină coace. Vină coace. Zi salut la stream. Zi salut la stream. Salutare stream. Noi suntem Sheldon Micuțulul și am venit aici astăzi să spunem salut. Salutare tuturor, noi suntem Sheldon și am venit să zgâriem scaunul, pentru că chiar dacă avem turn pe care să zgâriem și avem o grămadă de chestii pe care să ne întindem, noi preferăm să mergem la scaunul streamerului și să-l zgâriem, pentru că e mai bine pe scaunul streamerului.
More specific for counter matchups, but you already have 3 dashes on your team. You try and want to stop the Poppy from having too much impact. There's the Xayah band away. G2 once again looking for that dive onto Gumayushi strategy.
Exactly. They're very clear about this. They're trying to ban out anything defensive for the bottom lane. G2 really want to go very aggressive down there.
Au banat Poppy, joacă Mickey XRL? Nu, au banat și Bro, știi ce vreau să văd? Știi ce vreau să văd? Xayah Rakan, bro. Au banat ăștia Xayah, de ce ați banat Xayah singur? Vreau să văd Rakan Ezreal. Sau Rakan ceva, să joace Mickey Rakan. Asta vreau, gen Rakan sau Brown, dar Brown e banat și el.
Counterpoint, Mickey really did fund the Nautilus death toll.
I mean, Draven e mai bad decât Kai'Sa în Vibe, plus că Vibe poate să-și buildeze zone. De asta adaptează și joacă Kai'Sa. Nu dau de Draven.
History on it all time. So here, going for something that has long range poke that can be okay in the lane as well, can get the push without a Cathy and Rain, and now Mickey, we're going back to the
Român cu potențial mare de T1 în LoL.
And is non-committal. The problem is the hook is committal, and that's what Mickey was using a lot of the time.
Ce înseamnă potențial de T1? Să ajungă să joace la T1? Nu există, cred că T1 nu ia jucători din alte țări. Are mereu curent.
And it would have been if it weren't for really good teammate peel and set up on those team fights. This time around, T1 do not have the Gragas cast to disrupt G2, and they are still going to be vulnerable to these Orianna Nocturne combinations that now even have a bit better of follow-up with Kai'Sa on the team.
Mickey ceva genul, mamă, 9 de turnuri trecut cu încă 16 de turnuri și ăsta 20 și 28 de asisturi, minus 4 kill-uri împărțit la face calcule Mickey.
I think T1 have a easy to execute early game into what was traditionally just their side lane split push from the last game.
And here we see compositions once again rounded out for G2 and T1. T1 one game away from making it to Paris 5 years ago. We were last in Europe. G2 denied them that opportunity. It was for finals. G2 obviously going on and losing 0-3 to FPX, but
să mergem G2, să mergem G2. Nu se merge așa bine română.
To overcome Weibo after falling just short against DRX and now looking for
What? Cum poate să fie Faker și în tribună și pe scaun să joace?
Actually, if he wins this game, has 100 wins at Worlds, which is 40 more than any other player, which is just an astronomically large gap for G2. Obviously, you're at 2-1. You do have another series after this, but last year things started collapsing after this.
Ce e tare că Faker e de vârstă cu tine și nu se vede. Bro, dacă îmi dau barba jos, am 16 ani. Nu știu ce vorbești. Dacă îmi dau barba jos, am 16 ani. Dar prefer să nu am 16 ani.
And all of the interviews talking about, you know, they thought that this roster would even break up, probably. So I've just been so happy to continue to follow this roster throughout the year. And for them to really start peaking again here at Worlds again would just be such a cool.
Haide, Mickey, hai că poți să ne lași 0-1 pe toți.
That was not a cool story for
Okay,
Mickey last time. He's getting the heck out of there.
Yeah, I do think though.
Improve, lose it, improve, chat. Lose it, improve. Mamă, vedem, mamă cât G2 e, voi ați văzut? Cât e? Bă, dar numai la mine. Bro, ori îmi pierd vederea. Ori îmi pierd vederea, chat. Ori te folosește ceva ninjutsu de Naruto și te duplifică. Fac 600 de Nautilus pe ecranul meu, what? Noi vedem bine? What? Serios? Nu cred că era doar la mine. Era genjutsu. Ah, my bad.
Yeah, and of course my favorite part about standard lanes, non-lane
Ce am la fel?
junglers
Era la, ok. Mă gândeam că mă trău la așa.
And you have a lot of options. When the bottom lanes like this, from champ select, you're just like, are so willing to make it spicy.
Jack cu Broken Blade deci face genul mai... Băieți, v-am zis că e Broken Jax. Uite ce mă pârtecă pe topul 1v1. Ioi, $3 nu poți să-l faci, bro. Are și biscuiței, Jax-ul ăsta e...
It's just more exciting skill expression.
There's a lot of skill expression in PvE. All right, you can do a lot to get your
There is skill expression in lane swaps as well. It's just very different.
Hits him with the Vault Breaker. Caps doesn't flash away. Ona doesn't burn his flash either, but Caps now at 100
Are biscuiței, Caps,
does have the TP to get back that wave. Not in a
good situation.
And this is what I was talking about from draft. It's significantly easier for Owner to again just go for this transitional gank, pick off Caps, and completely turn the lane in favor of Faker. And now it becomes incredibly difficult for G2 to try and set up because Yike wants to just free farm until 6. If you end up putting pressure on towards mid lane as this Nocturne and Owner shows up, that could be an absolute
disaster. Acum se simte pressure să facă catul ăsta. This is so bad, man. Like, this is so useless. Trebuie să dea flash-ul când ajunge lângă el să țină tether-ul. Da, continuă! I mean, nu vedea pe Leona, I guess, și era frică de Leona. Dar pierdut flash, Caps.
It is in the end gonna be the advantage there with the flash, so we'll see about repeat ganks because the number one most obvious thing in the entire game is Vi plus Ari. Level 6, guess what? You're dead. And now Caps does not have his flash. We'll see about the timer for it to come back up, but that is a huge alarm that goes off and kind of changes your mid lane vision priority. Like, you constantly have to keep track of it. And even look at this path from Owner, who sweeps around through the tri-brush to come steal away your bro. The mid lane steal away of Raptors for junglers.
This is so bad, man. This is so bad betting.
Because that allows you to continue to camp around mid lane without dropping resources.
Owner looking for that gank once again. Caps on dissonance himself.
Îmi putea să ia și Crage. Și nu-i dădeau spot, bă,
Faker was pushing at the wave. He wants to try and reset, but I was a little nervous when I saw Owner taking those Raptors because immediately you can just go in towards that mid lane.
Că nu poți să te duci să pui war să faci când ți se respawnează Raptorii pe 4. Cred că a crezut că Vi a început la Raptor de asemenea și vrea să facă trade.
Yeah, and of course Yike on the opposite side, you know, doing some similar stuff there. They got the ward onto the second spawn of T1 Raptors, so it will see Owner's positioning.
I think Owner, Zenith Blade's going to go on to Mickey here, tries to dredge line away. The chase continues as Hansama tries to put some damage back onto Gumayushi. Mickey down to 200 HP, Hansama stunned as well. The hook wide there for Mickey. Trying to set up perhaps for Yike to come in for a fight.
I think Yike might have even been a little bit too far away to follow up on that, so it may have been a blessing in disguise that one went a little bit wide. So Gumayushi will get the lane pushed in. Hans, I think, right call to stop the reset and actually pick up this wave because Owner is going to be on that top half of the map. But yeah, I think this is still a nice little win for the T1 bot lane in the 2v2.
Are și guma movementului. Și Mickey X are movementul lui. Cu care mulți nu sunt de acord, dar are movementul lui. Propriul lui movement.
Especially on the Vibe pick, like you think back to their game against BLG, where BLG were consistently trying to make plays on sides, but it was Owner showing up. Now you get Yike who's trying to hover around mid with Mickey, and it's Owner in position alongside Keria. It was kind of this duo that was such a threat in the early stages to deny a lot of these early leads or accelerating some of the early gold leads the teams have picked up against them. So it's great to see Owner firing on all cylinders, but it's terrifying if you're
Ori n-are TP, by the way. Jax are TP. Iarăși alt PGD. Nu ai cum să faci gradul.
Hans and Mickey into mid to try and get the shove there as well. The problem for G2 is if they do look for an engage, Zeus still has the TP where Caps does not. So this could very quickly turn into a 5v4.
Oh, nice! I like it, bro. This is so good. This is so freaking good. Mickey flash. Good try, good try, good try. Kill. E good. Să facem mega, să facem mare. Trebuie să luăm grab aici. Deci ați free grabs. Am scos 2 flash-uri cu flash-ul la Mickey, dar era cât pe ce să prindă de kill-ups pe el. Dar Broken Blade e MVP pentru faza asta, că a jucat atât de agresiv, că a realizat că sunt split-up ăștia. Salut-o. Nu știu ce e greșit de acum joacă în Nautilus, așa joc și eu. Nice. I like it.
The small chunks in damage allow them the opening. Again, a 3 grub start here for G2.
We'll have to see if they can try and keep that pressure up, because you can see how hard T1 are fighting to try and deny them. But a nice job from Caps as well on that bottom side, because one of the big things that, as Medic was alluding to, the potential TP, but Caps puts pressure on towards Ace to deny that opportunity to try and come in. And T1 were trying to be sneaky against Broken Blade there, but the ward just spots them out.
Okay, start for G2. T1, though, will still be relatively happy with the position they're in. They have a slight gold lead for Zeus. They have a slightly larger gold lead for Gumayushi on this Jhin, and they really start to come online when they get that first item, second item. Now, both level 6 on Ono and 7 on Faker means they have that cease and desist Spirit Rush combination. Caps' flash back up for G2 makes him a little safer in a side lane. Doesn't have the TP yet, though, and it looks like he's going to shove out one more lane on the bottom side.
I mean, I'm not even trying to give you guys cope.
Don't do it, man.
Yeah, I mean,
we want good League of Legends.
No, you're off. No more talking.
Shox told me to, but I legit actually prefer the G2 comp side with the small adjustments that they made in this game. So, because they have the actual versatility of the Kai'Sa and because this time the top lane matchup is Gnar versus the Jax instead, doesn't have to worry about the disruption from the Gragas. I actually really like the little adjustments here. So, think of the fans as well who want more excitement.
I mean, it would be much more exciting if G2 are able to take this game, and obviously, as LEC casters, we are slightly biased in that regard, but continue to watch the game and just want the best League of Legends we can see. T1 here will be able to get the Drake. G2 really shouldn't fight this, because Broken Blade TP'd up to the top lane only a few moments ago. If they try to invest, obviously Zeus can join the battle, and they would be at a numbers disadvantage again. They won't battle against it. See Yike just hovering Hans Summer and Mickey in case anything does happen, but with Gumu and Keria backing away, just going to be this wave getting
Sincer, cred că win condition-ul tău e să lași pur și simplu pe ăsta ca să scaleze și să nu faci interfere în linia lui, să lași să stacheze, să colecteze wave-uri și bla 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 și să cauți să joci pentru solo laner, right? Din moment ce ai și Grabis, cred că ar trebui să dea hover de fiecare dată când are camper, să dea hover pe top lane, pentru că uitați-vă cum merge linia asta. Gnar are perma pressure și Jax, ca să poată să joace linia, trebuie să facă trade-uri cu EU în Gnar și dacă Gnar își dă EU în Gnar, imediat ce faci mega, îi dai. Nu are ce să facă, nu are counter pe la R în perete, în W în perete, în Nocturne ce vine și dă un shot.
They're doing quite well on that front.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how T1 are going to open up on the map now, because there is a way that they can immediately shift Gumayushi in towards mid and try and make some sort of play on towards Caps with the curtain call, especially when you've only got 50 seconds until those Voidgrubs are up. But it looks like they're just going to shift Faker up towards that top side. I wasn't sure if they just went all in on trying to burn that flash.
Oh no, oh no, Mickey, oh Mickey, oh no.
The charm landing as well, and Mickey is done for.
Pe care ceva genul, ia tu bro, că am văzut cum joci vai și el zice, mersi frate, te am, e pe mine, uite cum bro și am. Și în care nu are. În delta ăsta nu contează chat. Au folosit ultimata de Ahri, ultimata de Vai și se spawnează Grabis în 15 secunde. E actually worth pentru noi. Dar nu înțeleg ce face Broken Blade. Ce face Broken Blade? Mizează 100% pe faptul că ăștia nu au... că ăștia fac grabs când și-au dat deja ultele și e logic că nu o să-l facă. Cred că scapă, by the way, o să scape. Vai nu poate să rămână pe el, are mult respect și Grabis. Ești prea bun, Unor. Ești prea bun, bro. Ești prea bun. Ești prea bun. E motivat, chat, e motivat să câștige. Ce poți să-i faci? Ce poți să-i faci dacă el e atât de motivat să câștige la League of Legends? Mi-aș dori să aibă și cu experiment din solo cu un 2% din motivația lui Honor. Să mor, gen. E insane.
You put everyone on pause. Wait, when you said that, everyone's like...
Oh, Mickey looking for the hook here.
I mean, ok, for sure, a greșit Broken Blade, dar a prins prea mult curaj. N-are rău, vrea să-i dea kill-ul. Vrea să-i lase kill-ul lui Kai'Sa. Să-i lase kill-ul lui Kai'Sa. Nu, man, Europa, suntem de treabă și lăsăm kill-urile, bro, le lăsăm. Le lăsăm. Faker-i dă kill la jungler, dar junglerul meu zice e al tău, bro, e al tău, e al tău. Nu, mă particip, sunt ok. Nu trebuie gold pe Nocturne. Nu vreau. Nu vreau. Nu.
Regardless, Mickey should be able to get out here with just the Gromp steal from Owner, but man, another one. This is a big investment too, as we'll take a look. You mentioned the ultimates used to kill Mickey. Now it's kind of the reverse situation, and Faker did get that little, sight of Mickey. So good vision toggle by the observers.
And then the engage comes through from Mickey, and it's a nice setup carry here to try and help, but bot side.
Oh, Zeus flashes away. He's hit with a house. And Caps and Broken Blade find a kill. Carrier's looking to collapse here as well as Gumayushi, but this tower is already quite low, down to one plate remaining on it. Carrier going in with the Zenith Blade. Gumayushi there with the Deadly Flourish as well. Broken Blade still pretty tanky though. Yikes here to join the fray. Has the paranoia. Can't go into Guma, but there's a flash and a barrier on that AD carry, making it a little bit more suspect to go for the dive. Mickey and Hansa.
Așa cu taxele, o să fiu acolo. Mersi frumos de minutul primit.
Faker even dropped off that top tower, trying to move down to see if he can cover the mid lane, so then G2 kind of was just pushing towards mid as well, but so much of this early game has been about these cross maps.
I mean, golii doi încă de 800 gold, by the way, chat. 800 gol cu compo ăsta nu pasă chiar, de multe kill-uri pe Vi, ceea ce înseamnă că oricum o să moară în CC Vi. Își are de Nautilus, își ia Oriana, Gnarul ăsta e problematic pe side.
I think it's a hugely beneficial kind of response from G2 because they get their bonus first turret gold as well, and those are the types of plays where you really want to see the reset and kind of set up for it on the other side, but they jump on it and they get the small benefit, even though they have had a couple of speed bumps here, are able to get a little bit more gold.
And now you've got first items almost completed across the board. It's only BB who doesn't has that reset that he can go for and the teleport back in.
Mai dacă juca acum. Ideea e că putea să facă mult mai mult Nocturne dacă juca cu Gnar în side. Mult mai mult. Adică ați văzut de câte ori era asta cu Jack jumătate HP și ăsta se transforma în Mega Gnar și trebuia să-și dea recall pentru că trebuia să respecte enemy jungler, timer și al meu nu făcea nimic. Și dacă nimerești cu ăla ce faci? Leon are... Na. Vai găsește topul, ăsta nu-l găsește. Dar din nou e greșeala lui ăsta, lui Broken Blade, că și pe bot când a murit mai devreme, greșeala lui pentru că trebuia să conștientizeze faptul că adversarii nu vor să dea contest și o singură mișcare ce o au, și anume cross map. Și rolul lui e să nu moară în cross map. PSG meciul de ce T1 să aibă lead de minim 8 gold? I mean, 2 ca în 5 minute nu e chiar atât de rău, bro. Meciul trecut a fost mult mai rău.
And try and really put that Gnar behind to the point that Zeus is going to be able to control side lanes. Faker is going to be able to...
Da, se fac atât de multe greșeli, bro, atât de multe greșeli, sunt în capul lor, literalmente sunt în capul lor. În momentul de față sunt în capul lor. În Honor e în capul lor, 100%. Gen, Nocturne putea să scoată atât de mult din harta asta și n-a făcut nimic. Oh, cred că o să fie double charge la Herald, by the way. Măcar nu merge să dea crash. Ok, vreau să văd double pe caps, please. Acum nu mai lași kill-uri. Leona aia fără flash ar fi scăpat, nu? Nu mai lăsăm kill-uri acum. Nu lăsăm kill-uri caps care e best performer. Ce înseamnă cross-map? Cross-map înseamnă e prescurtare de la across the map. Adică dacă tu faci un play pe dreapta și adversarul nu poate să răspundă la play-ul tău, el va face cross-map. Across the map, în partea opusă, o să facă altceva. Da, atunci când nu poți să iei dragonul, pușezi topul și încerci să scoți wave-uri plus turn.
The life of Hans Sama though, so in the end it was just a little like one extra kill.
And both of the summoners from Hans Sama as well. Zeus has his flash, has that counter strike for and
next. Ești profund de că te pup, sper că e un problem, bro.
Likely to be a little while before we see that battle beginning.
I will say though, for G2, even though
I mean, din nou, 2K gold lead nu e chiar atât de wow. Plus că toate kill-urile pe Vi. Și match-ul e winnable. Actually, e winnable pentru că Vi își face cleaver, by the way. Nu își face Sterak. Și cred că ăsta e match în care îți trebuie Sterak second. Ok, are TP caps, are TP caps. Scoate turnul. I mean, vreau TP aici și fight? Nu, e doar... Bro! TP și fight, nu...
way to go because there's a lot of threat here with the dive from Owner and Faker and even Kerry being able to follow up, but it does mean that you just lack that
ai Ghilar care se face mega. Ai Oriana TP, ai Nocturne, nu au cum să vă bată sub turn. Vine Caps cu ulti, clean up. Do something. Fight. Please. Dar nu contează, bro. E 3v4 sub turn. E 3v4 sub turn. Asta e din nou ultimată defensivă. Ultimată la stinge lumina, arată-mi calea. Trimitem în loser bracket. Eu simt chemarea. Trist, bro, chiar eram încrezător, gen. Chiar eram încrezător. Chiar eram în trenul G2. Chiar eram urcat în tren, aveam bilet plătit, tot, stăteam jos pe scaun, gen, nu stăteam în picioare, că mi-am plătit bilet. Câteodată, în România, oricum plătești bilet, stai în picioare, dar asta e partea a doua. Controlorul se certa cu oamenii ce stau în scări și ascultă manele pe casetofon din 1940 toamna. Viața e frumoasă, eram pregătit, chat, eram pregătit pentru G2. Eram pregătit pentru un 2-1 G2. Sincer. Mai ales că n-am văzut draft. Deci că vreau să Faker vreodată în solo queue, da, de mai multe ori. Câteodată, cred că n-ai mers pe Brutal București-Pitești. Am mers, bro, am mers și în Pitești cu trenul, am mers și Brașov, am mers Târgoviște, București, am mers. Târgoviște, București, actually e destul de chill, găsești mai mereu low stages. Dar din Brașov în București, mamă, că picioarele mele au stat în picioare până le-am mai crescut un set de picioare care să steau și ele în picioare, pentru că na, controlul ai picioare, stai pe ele. Not bad. Teribil. Și Mickey era ceva de genul Chuckles, I'm in danger. Chuckles, echipa? Prieten? Ah, yes I'm dead. Again. Aveți teren Târgoviște? Bro, vezi că Târgoviște e metropolă și... Da, o să vezi. Pentru un univers paralel, Târgoviștea era capitala României din nou și era... Avea 5 milioane de oameni în populație. Nu zic mai multe. Într-un univers paralel.
They never hesitate on their engages. When you watch this T1 roster, when they're at their best, it is always these very quick, flashy engages that they do not hesitate on.
Am dat întreb ce Târgoviște apare pe hartă, cred că ai tu harta outdated, prietene. Că Târgoviște apare pe hartă încă din mediul Ev. Asta e ce mă? Middle Age. Mediul Ev. Evul mediu. România am schimbat, zicem, nu e Evul mediu. Gaci. De când se făcea trade, că de-aia se numește Târgoviște, de la târg, prietene. Că acolo a fost inventată bursa și toate cele în Târgoviște.
That's the exact execution that you want. Faker now as well finishes Storm Surge, 6 stacks on his Dark Seal, so there's plenty.
Și acum am un kebab de la Regal, să ai poftă, prietene. Să ai cea mai mare poftă posibilă. Ce-i voi joci? Mondan e off-season, bro.
G2 have the possibilities of trying to put, pressure on the split.
S-a inventat Bitcoin-ul, real.
Have the extra leverage now. It's just hard for them to even gain control of the mid wave first, and so then you can't really afford to send.
Aveți și Wall Street? Nu, avem Walk Street. Doar o singură stradă pe care poți să mergi, că pe celelalte trebuie să fugi. Dacă auzi, bă, în spatele tău, trebuie să începi să fugi. Da, o numim Walk Street. E strada chill. Patrulează un polițist pe acolo în fiecare zi și se asigură că e walkable. Ok, Zonia. Încă un Zonia. Și Jax are Zonia, I can do it better. Sunt prea ahead, man, sunt prea în față, Ok, Caisa, ok, Gnar. Bro, it's not bad, Nu, bro, că sabie stricată! Not bad. Sabie stricată, nu știu ce a făcut acolo. Ce credeți pe mine, aveți, da?
Broken Blade hunting for him, but he's not going to find the hiding spot. G2 strike back.
T1 thought that they were going to be able to collapse, but look how long it takes them to get in. The TP from Faker down towards the bottom side, whereas as Zeus goes in, the stopwatch from Caps buys a bunch of time. G2 able to punish Zeus, and also then immediately jumping on buys a ton of time for Sama to.
Că dacă ăla cu Jin lovește nestingerii din spate, nu arată de echipa. Hai că trebuie să moară aici, voi doi. Nu există niciun univers. Are și ward, bro, doar auto. Poate era frică. Ba da, cred că a dat 20 la Q-uri. Cred că l-a omorât la Q-uri. Acum nu contează dacă scapă sau nu, că a omorât pe unul. Ok. Să mergem G2. Să mergem G2, m-am mici de I3. Ok, moare Keria, moare. Ok, G2. Toate kill-urile pe Vai și deja Vai-ul cade în timp ce Oriana și Kaisa cresc. Oh no, ok, it's fine. E ok, chat, e ok. Ăsta e al treilea dragon, putem să-l și lăsăm, dacă nu avem multe, dar cred că ne vin ultimate până atunci. Avem nevoie de 3 iteme pe Kaisa plus 4 iteme pe Kaisa plus 5 iteme pe Kaisa și dacă ajungem la 6, avem o șansă. La 6 iteme chat chiar se pronosticul e că o să fie bine. Se face așa mult G2, bro, sunt singura echipă europeană care ar putea să ajungă până în finalul competiției. Dacă au o zi bună. Și automat prefer să vezi o echipă din Europa ce câștigă, pentru că în fiecare an din 2013 încoace câștigă China și Coreea, mai mult Coreea. Ce mai merge vai pe Guardian dacă nu mai are bounty? Geau nu faci neapărat pentru bounty, bro. Geau poate să-ți câștige fight-ul pentru că ți-ai resurrect după ceva timp și poți să mai dai un combo. În solo kill faci dacă ai bounty și vrei să ai șanse mai mici de a da bounty-ul. Dar în competitiv e good item overall. E mai bun decât Dance, de exemplu. Nice try. Oh nu, vine unul. Mare Jax. Are zonia, da mare. E free kill. Are zonia. Nu. Hai mama, blocat. Ok, Gnar? Brocă de broken e Gnar. Ce bine că le-am zis să ia Gnar. Bro, ce bine că le-am zis să ia Gnar pe al treilea pic. Să mergem bebelușul, bro. Nu mergeți, nu dați end. Nu dați end. A 3 dragon plus tier 2 pe mid, I guess. Nu faci baron aici. Pe 2. Actually nu. Nu știu cât damage au. Cât damage are damage aici. Actually, mai bine să iei ăsta. Dacă era soul point puteai să iei dragonul, dar așa e mai bine să iei ăsta. Doar să-mi dăm double TP, cred că e mai bine să... Mama, nu luăm nimic. Ne luăm gândul de la victorie. Dacă fiecare are TP, Zeus are TP. Bine, actually, bine că a dat double TP. Ok. Se ia baron. Aici trebuie puțin să dăm base. Base toți 5 încă o dată. Oriana poate să fixeze topul. Sau Gnar poate să fixeze, unul din ei poate să fixeze topul. Și se dă, chiar ce se întâmplă acum se deschide pe bot și mid. Nu se merge la dragon, 4 oameni merg în bot lane. Gnar ia wave-ul de pe top, face rotație în mid și apoi prinde mid-ul. Și Gnar rămâne mid în timp ce 4 merg pe bot lane. Problema e să nu-și ia engage cât timp ăsta e separat de echipă, gen trebuie să aștepte să-i vadă pe adversari. Huge, fight-ul ăsta a fost huge și a pierdut Geau, by the way, vai a pierdut Geau. Bine că le-ai SpeeDy de Gnar, real. Chiar mă bucur că i-am menționat lui Dylan Falco.
There, Caps actually just taking over on the Ori, really good kite back from G2, and then pushing forward on the transformation of the Nara.
Ok, aparent planul meu a ieșuat, nu se face bot mid, se face top mid. Și am mai dat un recall? Sau am mers top pentru că avea wave-ul mai rapid? No, Hans... Nu! E caca, n-ai voie. Ok, free hip. Don't get engaged on. Ahri e foarte low, ar trebui să facă rotație în bot. Problema e că wave-ul pe bot e foarte departe, deci maxim poate să... Ori își dau recall 4 și merg toți bot și rămâne Gnar mid, ori... Nu știu cât mai au din baron, 1.33. Ok, o să meargă 4 bot, 1 mid. Practic se face reverse doar pe partea opusă. True, chiar îți trebuie.
We are close to Faker getting a death cap on a very iconic champion for him, the Ahri here. So I think that is going to be
ce vrei micuțule, vezi star aici? Hai. Nu l ating, uite-l aici. Acum a venit, uite. Îl vedeți? Șobolanul? Și-a fugit. Ce miros șosetele? Că nu miros. Le-am schimbat azi. Doar te scarpi. Problema e că ăla cu Jax actually n-a trebuit mai rapid. Base-ul ăsta din partea lui Gnar e atât de teribil. Trebuie să dea base, trebuie să joace slow. Problema e că următorul dragon e soul, by the way. De unde au luat baronul, o să ia dragonul. Următorul dragon e soul, doar au gold lead acum, deci ar trebui să zice fiecare fight atâta timp cât execută corect. Kaisa are zonia. Dacă să sper miros de Târgoviște.
It may be heavy, but Faker was the one that stepped up at MSI in that 5-game
Vrei să
series.
spui mirosul de From Rags to Riches, mirosul de bărbat adevărat? Nu prea place Kaisa, actually. Kaisa are Zonia acum pentru Vai, Oriana are și ea Zonia, Vai a pierdut foarte, foarte multă utilitate aici. PSG este european, da.
Wait, Mickey flashed into a wall and hooked?
Never seen that before, eh?
No. I think he was looking for
Mickey? Cred că te joci Yumi meci viitor, Mickey. Un com de la cu Zeri Yumi, Mickey. Nu vrei să te joci? Nu vrei să te joci Zeri Yumi? Pentru noi? Pentru inima noastră? Încă un meci în care Jax e broken, chat. Încă un meci în care Jax e broken rău de tot. Oh, fix ce zic asta, Jax flank PP one shot pe Kaisa. Nu pierdem sol, da, așa e. Nu e rău, by the way, nu e rău. Ne spawnăm pentru Dragon, numai să mor repede, bro! You do it so good, just... Bro, lasă-i să te omori, este spawnat pentru Dragon! Uite, Faker îi dă delay la dead, bro. Faker îi dă delay la dead pentru că Faker înțelege că spawnează Dragonul. Și el fugea, man, el fugea, bro, că nebunesc, bro, că nu gândește, bro. Că nu gândește. Și are noroc că e suport și se spawnează. Spawnează mai rapid decât ceilalți.
So they actually even hurt them further, knowing that he is a dead man walking, chasing him around.
Bro, eu și Faker suntem pe aceeași undă. Eu și Faker suntem pe aceeași undă. Engage ăsta a fost bat. Or dacă dai full engage aici nu e rău, by the way. Dacă dai full engage, dar trebuie să dai full engage. Și aici a avut turbo bulan aici, by the way. În mod normal, murea a rămas în 11. Arătați-ne live game, live game acum. Ok, să decontez, să decontez. Soul point Ioan, Soul point Ioan. Mickey X vine așa puțin cu întârziere, chat, pentru că a fost ocupat. Ok, yike. E firat. Asta e mini hit, by the way. E whatever, I'll pick it. Ok, mid. Avem râde, nu mai avem, mamă, dar am dat 5 râuri, bro, pe ăsta. Avem și Nash. Putem să luăm triple in hip, Nash. Triple in hip, Nash, Bates, and... Good play, Yike. Good play. N-avea ce să facă la Dragon chat, n-avea ce să facă. A fost așa pentru drama efect când am făcut fața aia, dar n-avea ce să facă pentru că era fort shot-ul de Jhin. Și dacă uitați, pe Jhin îl cheamă Guma Sushi, deci practic nu o să ratezi de fort shots mai combo. Înțelegi că asta, am încercat să dea mai devreme, bro, dar era în stun. Trebuie să dea turn, Oh no. Ultimate price for his ability to steal the Baron. He keeps T1 in the game, and G2 just couldn't dot their I's and cross their T's. Owner has been a beast for T1 at this championship. Barely getting in over the wall, gets the smite, and G2 now, with that dead timer though, they want to try and end it. Zeus had pushed in mid with Gumayushi and Keria, so G2 trying to fight back against the Baron buff. They should be able to get another inhibitor for themselves, but T1, with that Baron buff, should be able to defend. The tankiness the minions get from the Baron buff, they'll be spawning in a few seconds time for T1. There they are, they'll help them defend. Faker goes in, dead charge, shockwave! There's two knocked up, but Zeus is already on the backline. The Gnar coming out from Broken Blade as well. Zeus doing so much work. Summer running for his life. Faker charms up Broken Blade. Zeus is just ripping through G2. Faker survives on the backline. Yike N-au cum să dea end, n-au cum să dea end, n-au cum să dea end, n-au cum să dea, nu, are flash ăsta. Nu au cum să dea end pentru că uitați-vă la wave-uri.
is going to chase them, but they're going to get out. At least 2 there survive for G2. But the defense from T1 at Nexus Tower, 4v5. They pull it off. They chase G2 out.
I mean, e teribil spot pentru fight, pentru că Gnar n-are ziduri unde să dea ultimată, să bage. Jacob free farm pentru că avem baron. Yay, free farm. Free farm pe 3 linii. Level 18 toată lumea. 7 iteme, 7 iteme. Ce-mi plac itemele. Deci ce spuneam, băieții cu Jin Fort Shot plus Smite au reușit să dea combo, dar Kaisa, Q sau W combo cu pasiva plus râd ăsta Smite de Nocturne, nu am reușit să sincronizăm. Nu e ca și cum Kaisa dă 6 miliarde de damage în nașor. Foarte greu, foarte greu, foarte greu, foarte greu. Foarte greu.
Chase down there as well, getting the extra couple ones. You can see how close they are to extending this series, but you're never fully there against T1 until you actually. O să expire baronul în 30 de secunde și poți să încerci să joci slow cu super. Trebuie doar, G2 trebuie doar să nu se bată. Trebuie doar să joace slow și să tragă de timp când adversarul vrea să forțeze engage-ul cu R de Leona, R de Vai, ăla cu Ahri are zonia. Ăla cu Ahri are zonia. Acel individ foarte aleatoriu cu Ahri are zonia. Big problem, big problem. Avem big wave pe bot. Elder în 2 minute. Trebuie să facem siege-ul ăsta, trebuie să-l facem. În acut trebuie să-l facem. Dar nu avem mega. Hai, nimerește ceva. Bossul meu, șeriful meu, Gingașul meu. Nimerește niște W-uri de Kaisa. Că gen dai damage dacă le... Mamă, Mickey a zis nu-ți face griji, bossule, te am eu, te apăr eu, tanchez eu pentru tine. Câte skill shot-uri vreți să iau pentru voi cu echipierii mei? Și din Mountain Solo este destul de annoying. Ca și Kaisa, gen annoying. Mitigează din poke. Ok. Slowly but surely, cum se spune. Dar dă-i mă, l-am dat mișto, un hook pe Jax-ul ăla, ți-e frică de Jax în puii mei. M-a auzit, dar a încercat, s-a simțit pus sub presiune. E ok, moare Mickey, nicio problemă. Mai moare din când în când. Câteodată, nu mereu. Câteodată mai moare. A zis Caps, lasă bro, că tanchez eu pentru tine de data asta. Băi, și jucam Elder, I guess. Mamă.
Is standing tall, the difference maker for T1 once more.
Honestly, it is a slight, like that's a mini win for G2, the teleport, because teleports are very big when Elder Dragon is coming back.
Să terminăm Void, am terminat Void pe Criblum pe ăsta cu Ori, am terminat Criblum pe Kaisa, n-am citit pe patch notes, ne facem Criblum în continuare, nicio problemă.
They're still going to be forced into a situation here where G2 should be first to the objective. The biggest one on the map, the Elder Dragon, the evening factor.
Ok, un fight bun în choke point, Trebuie să începem Elder să-i forțăm să intre noi. Trebuie să nu dăm poziția, dacă dăm poziția asta e over, am pierdut. Ok, perfect, good hook, good. Flash, nice. Plant out și mergi pe Elder. Plant out. Kill the plant. De ce dai poziția, Mickey X? De ce a plecat Mickey X din brașul ăla? Știe cineva? De ce a ieșit Mickey X din pixel bash? De ce a dat drop la bash? În loc să stea în același bash, să dea hook pe oricine se apropie. El voia să flancheze, bro, cu Nautilus. Eu nebunesc. I'm losing it. Haide, Yike. Miracolul european suedez, fă ceva, Yike. Ai Gea, dar nu îmi pasă. Sari, flash un pic și fură-l. E ok, o să luăm următorul fight, prieteni. O să luăm următorul. E luat următorul fight.
Inhibitor turrets are the only thing blocking them in Europe against a double buffed up T1 that have been relentless at denying you in this game.
That was crazy. The face check there, then Owner flashes away and they use the blast cone to jump onto Caps' head. Even with these defensive items we keep
Deja
pointing out
zice
for
ca
G2,
Goldrift. Pentru că au farmat 3 inhibitoare timp de 5 minute, bro. 3 inhibitoare în care G2 n-a luat farm, dar T1 a luat farm la cooldown cu extra minion spawnat pe fiecare wave, gen extra cannon. Uite, aici trebuie să rămână în paș acolo, în unghi, uite, dacă ăla se apropie, Leona și apucă acolo. Bro, Leona moare acolo, își pierde flash. El flanca, bro, era în river, bea apă. Nu înțeleg, chiar, jur că nu înțeleg. Vrea să marcheze flancul cui. Primul hook a fost senzație. Rămâi în baș, se apropie adversarul, dai din nou hook. Că dai mai mult damage decât dau ei. Dacă moare Caps din prima, pentru că și-a ultă de Leona în Ahri flank și nu e niciun autos acolo să blocheze nimic. Vezi că el e bun pe blocat și asta, dar... Trebuie doar să dăm inhib-ul ăsta, trebuie să dăm inhib-ul now wave asides. Just give inhib, au Elder. Dacă ți-ai engage de la Elder, pierzi. Fără Elder ai o șansă. Fără Elder ai o șansă.
You've got a GA on Gumayushi, you've got Faker with the Spirit Rush, the curtain's open. I don't think G2 is getting a second act. The dive onto the backline by Yike, but immediately he is low. Caps already assassinated on the back, and T1 are just ripping them to shreds. T1 absolutely melting G2 under their Nexus towers. History doesn't repeat itself, but it damn well rhymes. It's another Friday, it's another T1 win.
Monumental stuff from T1. The incredible performance from Zeus in game one, showcasing how good their team fighting is, into some of the most clutch after clutch after clutch plays to bring the 2-0 win against G2.
T1 are such a hard team to finish off in any game.
That they are. T1 advancing to the quarterfinals. We're going to hand it over to the analyst desk before we get into the second series of the day.
This is exactly why we were so excited to see this matchup. Not because G2 lost, mind you, but because of how these games play out.
Bro, la MSI, Axia G2 nu sună, a fost best of 5 și a fost aproape să-i bată. A fost aproape să-i bată. Aproape a bătut.
And I'm not excited about it. I'm actually really sad about it. But I'm happy for the side of T1 and the side of Faker. He now has 100 world's wins.
Mai e și Fnatic, mai e și G2. Doar Madeleine s-au fost terminați până acum.
Yeah, the Ahri pick has been great for him. He's looked great at this Worlds again, coming from domestic performance to here. He's looked way more comfortable. The thing that stuns me is not that, obviously, I know that T1 are very capable of running high execution compositions, but again, I cannot stress enough the glow up from qualifying to regionals to fighting back in these team fights. Owner on the
my God.
Insane.
Crazy. He was crazy. This man, other people spend their lives trying to get a trophy, but he lifts them like Skittles as we head over to the Verizon post-game interview. Oh, I just tossed an interview, but I'll do it again. It's Zeus for the Verizon post-game interview. Oh, not ready yet? We'll see. Okay, I think we're gonna reset. It happened to me before. We gotta sync it. We gotta sync it with everyone around the world. Hence, it needs to be pixel perfect.
Everybody needs to hear what that man in top lane has to say, and it's fair. We saw the Gragas. The Jack started a bit rougher, but rounded out incredibly well. That T1 topside is,
it's so terrifying.
As an EU pundit, infuriating.
We are going to the interview now. So Zeus in the Verizon post-game interview, standing by with Lore for real this time.
Welcome back to the stage for this interview with Zeus after a commanding performance from T1 against G2 Esports. I have Jason, of course, to help me with the translator. Thank you so much for joining me after this series. 2-0. I feel like everyone was hyped about this matchup. People even talk about a rivalry between G2 and T1. Would you say that it's a rivalry, and what was the excitement for you guys playing against them?
오늘 많은 분들이 정말 기대한 경기였는데 2대0 깔끔하게 승리하셨습니다. 또 이제 많은 팬분들이 T1, G2, G2 T1의 라이벌리에도 관심 많이 갖고 계신데 제우스 선수도 양 팀 간의 라이벌리가 존재한다고 생각하시는지 그리고 오늘 경기 많이 기대하고 오셨나요?
네, 일단 G2가 19년도에 T1을 떨어뜨리기도 했고 그래서 저도 항상 복수한다는 마음가짐으로 임하는 것 같고요. 그리고
Acum ne păcălește și spune că G2 ar fi bine.
뭔가 말하지 못할 그런 마력 같은 게 있는 것 같아서 까다로운 것 같습니다.
Dorin e deja dat foarte, foarte tare pe la tine. Dacă îl luam mai tare, o să audă cu mult mai tare peste mine.
And G2 every time there's something with them that I cannot really put in words, but you know something makes it really difficult to play against.
It is always a special matchup for you guys and for the fans. Zeus, how would you rate your performance today?
오늘 본인의 경기력은 어떻게 평가하고 싶으신가요?
사실 요새 탑라이너가 경기력을 보여줄 만한 게 교전이랑 한타 정도가 좀 많은 것 같은데 좀 교전이나 한타에서 아쉬운 부분이 많았던 것 같고 그리고 뭐랄까 두 판 다 초중반에 좀 더 이득 볼 수 있었을 것 같은데 잘 안 돼서 그걸 좀 팀적으로 다시 돌려봐야 될 것 같습니다.
These days, all top laners can kind of display and showcase as skirmish and team fights, but today I feel like in both games, my team fights and skirmishes were not ideal. I think I left a lot to be desired, so I think I have to work on it. And also in both games as well, I think we could have pushed a little further in the early games, so I think as a team we have to rewatch the VODs and, you know, talk about it.
I see. It is interesting given the fact that people talk about T1 at Worlds, regardless of the fact that playoffs were not the greatest for you guys. You always show up at Worlds. You always defy the expectations. Do you feel like Worlds is special for you? And how do you explain the fact that you always can bounce back?
그리고 많은 분들이 T1에 대해서 이야기할 때 사실은 뭐 정규 시즌이나 플레이오프에서 최고의 기량을 보여주지 못했더라도 월즈만 오면 정말 다시 한번 회복해서 정말 표현할 수 없는 그런 슈퍼 파워를 보여주면서 놀라운 경기력을 보여주시는데 월즈에서 T1은 언제나 이런 특별한 힘을 갖는다고 생각하시는지 그리고 언제나 이렇게 바운스백 할 수 있는 원동력은 무엇이라고 생각하시나요?
일단 정규나 시즌에서 좀 안 좋은 모습을 보였던 거는 여러 이유가 있고 그냥 좀 안 좋은 것들도 많이 겹쳤다고 생각해서 아무래도 선수들도 좀 그럴 때는 잘 넘겨서 그냥 롤드컵 때는 진짜 전력을 다할 수 있는 환경도 갖춰져 있고 다들 선수들도 엄청 치열하게 얘기하면서 잘 하기 때문에 더 그런 것 같아요.
Yeah, sometimes we have some like bad things happening throughout the regular season. Same thing happened this season as well. I think it was a collaboration of everything really bad for us, but we all know that we can just move on and also focus on Worlds entirely. So we were able to give our all here, and we always have a lot of communication about it.
And focusing on Worlds and the next step, we will see you guys in the next stage. Last year was about being the last seed of the LCK, fighting in Korea to finally get the victory. What is this Worlds about for you personally?
이제 8강에 진출하셨고 작년 서사는 이제 T1이 유일하게 남은 LCK 이제 팀으로서 4강부터 달려나가는 그런 이야기가 있었잖아요. 올해는 T1 어떤 서사를 또 그리고 있을까요?
일단 서사는 사실 그냥 열심히 살다 보면은 팬분들이나 아니면 환경이 잘 만들어 주시는 것 같고요. 중요한 거는 이제 사실 강한 팀이 워낙 많다 보니까 사실 누굴 만나도 다들 너무 경계가 많이 되는 것 같고 개인적으로도 질 뻔한 경기도 꽤 있었다고 상황을 좀 있었다고 생각해서 좀 잘 보완해야 될 것 같습니다.
I mean, storylines, narratives are not something that we write, you know? It's going to be completed once we just do our best, and it's going to be completed by the fans and, you know, by the environment. So we're just going to keep on focusing our own performance, and I think there were a lot of moments where we almost lost the games as well throughout the run so far, so I think we still have to do our best.
Let's write a new page in history then. 인터뷰 감사합니다. Thank you so much, Zeus. Thank you so much, Jason, for the translation as well. And T1's advance to the next round.
Let's go, Liquid! Fnatic, let's go! Lift the trophy!
Let's go, Genji! This is yours!
하나생명 화이팅! 우승해주세요!
JRTS, let's win it all! Let's go, G2! This is yours!
T1 fighting! Let's do it again!
Let's go, Tower Esports! Let's get it! Let's go, Fnatic! Let's win it all!
Din Baron ia la Nexus. Nu mai fi rău. Good one, dar nu mai fi rău. Bine, jucăm la 2-2 acum. Nu cred că se știe încă. Că să revin mie la draft.
Welcome back, everyone. As the EU fans, hopefully, I mean, they're probably just still crying, myself included, but I had to wipe my tears off because we have another series. That's how that one went, 2-0 in the end. That does mean that G2 gets another chance to live another day, but their fate will be decided by the draw tomorrow. Who doesn't get another chance if they fail here is BLG and PSG, because we are moving into an elimination best of 3 in the 1 and 2 side of the pools. And I think we got to start, Emily, with the fact that BLG is even in this 1 and 2 position is one of the biggest surprises of Worlds so far.
It's really shocking, actually, because I know coming into this, I was like, okay, of all the teams coming in from the LPL, BLG is actually the one that I was the least worried about for 2 reasons. One, they were by far and away the strongest team. And then 2, the meta looked like it was going to be a great shift for them, right? Like, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that Knight can play, Wei can interact with his lanes a little bit more maybe with some of these jungle picks, and they've looked not great in this meta. I have not really enjoyed their meta read, Draco.
I haven't enjoyed it either. And we take a look at some of the big picks that they've been prioritizing. It's not that it's uncommon for the picks that they're choosing to be high prio. Things like the Jhin, the Poppy, the Ahri, but they're using them in ways that are highly questionable. I think Poppy's an incredible counter pick, but if you're blinding it, it's going to feel bad. The Jhin as well, not powerful. But as much as I would love for that to be the talking point, the biggest thing, the biggest variable is this jungle substitution, which I think screams to the world that BLG know they have a problem, and this to me feels like a last-ditch effort to turn things around.
Yeah, and my hot take is actually that they play very similarly with both junglers. It's just that Shun is a little bit more risky and will potentially go for more carry picks. So I don't know if they're going to change their meta read or if they're just looking for some way to do better and sub Shun in. We'll see if it works.
They got to do something, Emily. They're up versus PSG with their tournament lives on the line as well. And of course, this is a rematch. It went all the way to Game 5 at MSI, and PSG could not close it out. The question is, will they be able to do it here?
That is the major question on our minds, Shocks, because we've already had one MSI rematch go the way that it went at MSI. Can BLG bounce back from a very disappointing start to Worlds 2024? And when we see PSG continue to make their way up the ranks and surprise a lot of teams with how well they can play.
And I think it's actually fitting that they sub Shun back in now, because Shun was playing at the MSI series, of course, and was a big part in it. I mean, one of the games that PSG won was one of their lane swaps where they actually put Shun and Bin very far behind. That was the Bin Vayne game where they were able to dive in between towers. But the other one was where Maple was an Aurelian Soul, and they had to actually scale back into the game. PSG, in that series, you know, people will remember they actually pushed BLG quite far in many of the games, and it was very close. So while on paper this should be very lopsided, what we just saw fairly recently at MSI was competitive.
Yeah. But the thing was, it was PSG punishing a lot of the over-aggression from BLG, right? Especially when you look at the bot lane, like Elkanon trying to play heavily into that 2v2. Consistently, you're having Junja show up and punish him in that respect. Then when it got in towards the later portions, the portions of this turn that we've seen so far as well, like against T1 punishing that over-aggression from Billy. So it still feels like a lot of the weaknesses from BLG are on show, and PSG have a framework in which they can operate to try and punish that once more.
I think the question for BLG is what we've seen from them at Worlds so far where they will peak at Worlds? Because if they play anywhere like the level they did domestically, this should be a quick 2-0. They should be able to dominate a team like PSG, even if PSG play well.
I do agree with Emily, though. I feel like a lot of the issues with Billy have been a lack of good meta read, where they've kind of gone for these low damage drafts, or they've kind of been trying to facilitate Knight, who is exceptionally strong in these control mages, but haven't had a carry either in the Jhin that Elk has been prioritizing or in their jungle from Wei. So I think bringing Shun back in feels like they're going to try and shift back over towards a lot of the more carry-oriented picks that Shun has been renowned for, and that Wei has some, but not to the same extent as Shun.
And they've been pretty open that both Shun and Wei have been sharing scrims, you know, at different times. So both of them playing with the team. If they slam a Kindred pick, like that will actually be insane. You know, Kindred or Nidalee comes out here for Shun, it would be super hype, but not really the way that this meta has gone. Whereas at MSI, both of those were very prominent picks.
For PSG on the other side, you're looking at Betty, you're looking at Maple, both of whom are having very good tournaments so far. Also, Woody on Engaged Champions is a force to be reckoned with. So that's where my eyes are really focused. I think Azure is a serviceable top laner and can have moments to shine. And obviously, the battle between the two junglers is going to be paramount in this series.
All right, Yone or Aurora here. You actually have to give one of the two over. Both of those have been highly prized power pick solo laners here.
Sper doar să-l vedem Ione. Sper doar să fie Ione ban. Dacă e Aurora ban și văd Ione game, o să fie...
Aurora, Nocturne, okay, so they actually give both, and they want
ia să vedem, oare o să ia BLG Ione first pick? Eu zic că o să ia Ione first pick.
We got a trade like this. I can't remember what game it was earlier in this tournament as well, where we got the Yone first pick and the Aurora counter, and the Aurora actually ended up coming out on top. I want to say it was Cream being able to play in that mid lane, because you do have a lot of control, you're able to push back, and I think Aurora as well while she has a lot of great utility in her kit, her scaling on her ratios is absolutely insane as well. So I'm not surprised to see Billy going towards this. One, because it can match up into the Yone fairly well. But two, you also get that flexibility where you can put it top if PSG don't take the Yone here.
It feels like PSG have to take the Yone,
yeah,
right?
I agree, yeah.
Give it either to Azure or to Maple and see how well you can do. Maple's played it once already, of course, here at Worlds so far. Alongside that, are you looking towards jungle? Skarner's already been removed, Vi's already been removed. Do you want something that has non-committal engage, which is what we always talk about? Sejuani fits that wheelhouse very well.
Yeah, you would have had to ask that question way earlier because Sejuani is always instant lock with a Yone. The very, very straightforward melee synergies there to lock up the Suns really puts that pressure on a lot of the matchups where the Yone does rely so much on these E trades. Pop the E, go in, put a bunch of pressure on your opponent, but if you have the threat that Sejuani, it turns it into a whole new level. The next kind of mind game, though, that has emerged, that I actually liked what FlyQuest did when they gave it over, was that they know that if you're going to go into this style, you are going to be committing to some melee short-range compositions.
Probabil ori Gnar, Turpic, ăsta ori Gnar, ori Rumble. Dar Gnar e banat în doi normalmente. Rumble, Turpic. Plus că e Agi să văd. Rumble e banat pe Blue. N-am fost atent.
Yeah, with the Wukong, again, kind of that more carry-oriented pick that we were talking about coming through for Shun. And I think it facilitates well in the, hey, I'm going to use the Aurora to group everyone up, and then Wukong comes in and just swings that staff around and knocks everyone out. So a nice little combo for BLG. And I think this is definitely a shift away from what they came into the last couple of games with. This feels a very different style. Identified that meta shift they need to make.
Cannon, the pick into it, though, you can see there's this kind of battle of zone control in team fights, these big AoEs, the cycling
e bun și în Aurora pentru că, practic, dacă Aurora apasă R, poți să implica numai să dai... Nu e bun. Dar trebuie să știi de linia în Jax. Ideea e că Jax-ul să-și rușeze Merx și după Merx rush-ul să fie bun și versus Seju și versus Seju. E cu siguranță o să-i facă viața grea lui Wukong.
Is very AoE and very cluster oriented, then the AD carries start looking at, all right, we either got to be able to follow along with all of this dive and action that's going, or we have to be able to escape it. And so you see stuff like this, like the utility of the Ash Arrow getting banned or the Kai'Sa follow-up, or you can also start to think about things like Ezreal that have more mobility that can try and play around that.
Kalista's also the one that stands out to me that he could be trying to eye up for, just take that on this next rotation, and even then it opens up for Renata too, so be interesting to see what Betty decides to end up going towards, because you've already got that AP unlock from the Kennen, so you're able to just go into these heavy AD focused picks. Do BLG want to try and ban it away to try and make that a little bit more uncomfortable? Because Elkanon, I will be very happy to play it. Like the Rakan is a respect ban to on, but the Kalista and Renata were two of those big picks that they went like to go from the past.
BLG actually deciding to ban away the Kalista themselves, now pick some more AoE for the team fight in the form of the Rel. Elkanon could look towards something like the Lucian Nami that has served them well in the past, but is a little bit susceptible to being jumped on by the enemy team. Does give you a lot of lane pressure, though. I think Elkanon are actually having a pretty good year on Lucian Nami as well, if I remember correctly. Rel still not quite locked in, but you have to feel this is where PSG are going.
I do think, though, this is an angle where you could just go back towards the Jhin. Like, I wasn't a big fan of it in their last few comps because it just felt like you didn't have any supplementary damage, but you've got it in boatloads with what's been drafted already for BLG, and it then means that you can play fairly far back from the likes of a Yone or a Kennen, but potentially go for the MF. Similar kind of idea, long-range ultimates. You don't actually have to be up close and personal in these fights as they start off.
Would be full AoE if they did go for it, and then Leona definitely pairs well.
I'm interested that we didn't see a Renata from either side as well. You do have it like big AoEs, but when you have this much engage, it feels like Renata can do quite a lot of work at just disengaging the enemy team, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think the only caveat is I think teams kind of look at it saying, hey, we'd like it paired with the Kalista because she isn't very vulnerable. True. So having that invulnerability from the Fates call can make it tough for her to always come out safe. But on the opposite side, they're actually just going to go back towards the MF. So I already called it a big AoE. And I don't know if Betty wants to answer with his own AoE.
The biggest of clusters we're going to have. These team fights will be a big bang For sure.
Can we just get another play-by-play on the desk instead of one of you guys for the team fights?
Just say, look at the explosions. Oh, there's the Ezreal. Okay, so that was the other, part of the AD carries I was mentioning earlier about you can try and go for the survival tactic in these cases. And Betty is a very good Ezreal, has invested so much time into this champion. I will say, too, because we actually were casting this series at MSI, and the same setup was there where Betty gave an interview with PentaQ where he was talking about Elk, and specifically Elk on the Lucian, is the AD carry that everyone wants to be, aspires to be, has so much respect for Elk and On as a bottom lane. And he really showed up and proved himself against kind of his, heroes or players that he looks up to in that series. So I'm really looking forward to the part 2 to this and kind of the follow-up.
And I mean, Betty will also be very familiar with them, right? Played on RNG, Rogue Warriors, back when Elk was still Jomung. So there's a lot of history, both in the LPL, now at the international stage as well. And I think having this Ezreal at least gives him a chance to try and arcane shift out of this bullet cyclone of weirding that's going to be coming his way on BLG side. So he can have a major performance coming into this game if he's able to keep himself safe.
Kind of a bullet hell experience for both the AD carries in this game. For BLG, currently sitting at 1 and 2, performing well below expectations so far at Worlds 2024. PSG looking to add another name to the list of teams they have defeated over the years. BLG, well, PSG were very close to doing it against BLG at MSI. Can they go one step better here? Best of 3 for a spot in Paris, for a spot in the quarterfinals as we go on to the Rift for the 3rd time today.
So much goes along with this series as well, with the interview and Maple kind of referencing that this might be his retirement year. Such a legendary player on the international stage, and he's been given the pick of the tournament. That pick of the tournament, the Yone, of course, was not free, did come at the cost of giving over Knight's Aurora, but definitely will be looking at Maple, especially with the support of a Sejuani jungle.
Actually, chat, a intervenit ceva și aș vrea să rezolv. Pot stau să caut niște soluții. O să opresc aici și ne vedem mâine cu următoarea meciuri, bine? Pare rău, chat, ne vedem mâine. See ya.